Christie O'Donnell, planning board attorney.
Valerie Menasha, planning board consultant.
Sandy Anelli, secretary.
Donna Sharp, planning board member.
Jim Bassinas, planning board member.
Manny Enriquez, planning board member. Bill Boyd, planning board member.
Carolyn Stevens, planning board chair. Good evening, everybody, and we have one item this evening. Jennifer and Pascal Smith Cody, 94 Somerstown Road. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Alan Phillips, the Healthy Engineer. You see me before.
Yeah.
So perhaps what I'll do first is at least review the changes to the plan since we last were here. Let me just run through these. So one thing we have done is originally the driveway was 18 feet in width. We're now proposing it to be 20 feet in width with a 1-foot shoulder on each side. This is in response to fire department comments that they wanted a wider driveway. There'll be a stabilized 1-foot ground shoulder that's going to be placed there. There's a larger turnaround space at the end of the driveway that's been provided. Another like a backup space has also been provided here. This is also in response to comments from the fire department. So there's one, basically a truck would turn around this way and drive out, and the same sort of thing would happen here. So that's all as a result of the comments from the fire department. I'll just say also, the grading has been adjusted to accommodate, there's a 36-foot turnaround here and a larger turnaround here at the end of the drive. So that's one of the other changes to the plan. I'm going to miss something. Plan control plan. We've included now 2 lines of silt fence down gradient to the proposed stormwater management practice, and some adjustments in the location of catch basins as a result of the modification to the driveway. Also, in addition on this plan, as you know, we did have the our arborist, Michael Nowak, who came out there and went through most of the trees that are essentially located in the areas that we disturbed and beyond that line. And he identified trees that were in good condition. He identified the species by genus and plant by genus and species, identified its condition as well, as whether it was good, fair, poor, hazardous, or dead. And so that is that's reflected actually on this sheet, where trees which are shown in red are actually in either fair or good condition to be removed. Trees that are in blue are actually, let me also include invasive trees in that too, are trees that are being removed, but they are either invasive, dead, or poor. So that's one of the other modifications on this plan as well. As I said, that was also reflected. And we did actually also submit a detailed report to the town. That's also reflected in our tree removal and preservation plan. There are 2 sheets now, which list all the trees by genus and species, and the status of them, whether they're going to be removed because of their condition, whether they're removed because they're dead, removed because, or maybe they're good because we need, maybe good, but we still need to be removed. So that modified the overall number of trees that were going to be impacted. And what we came up with was, you may remember previously we had about 150 trees we identified, but actually when you sifted through it and identified the trees that were either dead, identified as dead by Michael Nowak, or poor or invasive, the trees that are left that are either fair condition or good condition, the total we actually had were 78 trees that are going to be removed. And the aggregate diameter of the trees to be removed that are in good or fair condition is 1,021 caliper inches. And that number before was around 1,900. So obviously, modifying that number based on trees that were either dead, invasive, like a lot of northern maples, poor, hazardous, because they're leaning, or whatever the condition was, that modified the plan. And finally, I just want to point out too, we actually modified the planting plan as well. And one of the changes to it, after we revisited the site, and I was there with our wetland delineator, we really did see that there's virtually zero understory that's going on here. So what we actually did is provide a planting area. There was like a small temporary ponding area here, there, and this was largely still water when we were there. But there's this area here, which is in the wetland area, but we're going to plant it actually to provide some additional diversity. We're planting shrubs and herbaceous species here. And the idea is to sort of provide some diversity. The invasive, the herbaceous species may spread a little bit, but at least providing some diversity here in the in a portion of the wetland area which doesn't exist at present. And that's, essentially the changes to the plans. I guess the principal item that we did was have the arborist come in and do his assessment of the trees. That was important as well. That done, because I know it was something that this board had requested. The other thing I know was requested as well was an assessment as to whether or not runoff from the property to the north. This is the property here, so Orange Town Road there. Edgewood Road is actually here. And I looked at, this is from the Westchester County GIS. I looked at the grades that are present here. And based on this analysis that I see here and from looking at it, it looks like very minimal amount of water. There's like virtually zero water is going to go from this property into this property. So I think the location of a driveway here to access the 3 lots on this property, I think will have extremely minimal impact at all, period. Because clearly the runoff does go in, say to the northwest towards the street or to the north and through the property. That's where it goes. And that's really, I think, the summary of what was modified on the plans. If there's any comments or questions, I'm more than happy to address that further. I can talk more if you want, but I don't know whether you want to ask something.
I don't have any.
Well, I have some, but maybe it'd be helpful if Valerie went over her comments first. If that would be okay.
Sure. So I'll start off with, process comments, just so, because this is some decisions the board's gonna have to make. So with seeker, we will, next month, I'll be providing this board a draft of the EAF Part 2. The applicant provided the Part 1, and there's still some additional information that they'll be providing us, based upon like the wetlands and any response we get from the DEC. So I think by next month, we'll be able to have like a Part 2 for this board to review. The second item is this application requires subdivision approval. And I'm just noting that a plat needs to be provided, right? So that's one thing that's outstanding in order to complete that application. The wetlands permit, this particular application will require EAC recommendation and review. And at this point, while there might be some still outstanding items or a little bit of information in terms of the wetlands, I do think it might be worth this board considering moving this application over to the EAC to start getting their initial comments associated with the wetlands permit. The same thing with the steep slopes permit. I do think the applicant has provided additional information based upon some of the outstanding items that we noted in the past couple memos, and I do think that at this point, it makes sense for this to also be referred to the VEAC for their review. The tree permit is the same. Craig Stevens is here in the audience tonight, so the board has, and he's been out to the site, so I'll kind of defer to him as to the status of his review with the trees, but basically this also requires EAC review, and unless Craig disagrees, we might be ready to have that go over to the EAC for their review for that. And then the other thing is with additional agency approvals, I mean, this is something that the applicant probably should start reaching out to, especially the Department of Transportation, in case there's any changes to the site, to the subdivision that might be required as a result of that.
I can speak to some of this too.
And then the last remaining items is just dealing with the wetlands. Again, we just had a couple other comments dealing with the topography, but I also think to the same point that the board raised last month, is that once final grading is done, to just confirm that the wetland itself will still have its, initial or water source. Because now that the property will be regraded to some extent, so that's just something to take a look at, especially when the EAC is reviewing for the wetlands. And then we just had some other couple minor things with just a few things remaining, but for the most part, the applicant has provided a lot of the information that was outstanding.
And I just so you know, with regard to the DEC and the wetland, so I made that application on January 12th. 90 days has now passed. And so on, I think it was around day 87, I sent an email to, the second email I sent, to Sarah Polachek of the DEC, and her comment to me is, and I'll just read it. The requester, if you haven't heard anything, which I haven't, not a word. Requester shall make a notice of that failure by means of certified mail, return receipts requested, addressed to the Director of Division of Fish and Wildlife. The notice must contain the requester's name, a copy of all materials sent to the department with the initial request. If the department fails to provide a definitive answer within 10 business days of the receipt of such notice, freshwater wetland jurisdiction for the subject parcel shall be deemed waived. Such waiver shall serve as a complete defense to the enforcement of the act for a period of 5 years from the date of the waiver. So it's my intention to send off a letter with the supplemental materials to the DEC now that it's been over 90 days.
Okay.
In response to your comment, I have been filling out form perm 33 for the DOT. I filled it out, and the next step really is to submit it to there. So you know. A question I have for you and the board is with regard to the comment that you have, this comment remains open. The exact location specifications, amount of all proposed draining, filling, grading, dredging, and vegetation removal or displacement, and the procedures to be used to do the work. Now, I believe that refers to the wetland buffer.
No, it actually,
No.
it's part of the steep slopes permit, yeah.
Okay,
So I think you responded to it in your response to the wetland buffer, but
correct.
this was really related to the steep slope
Correct,
permit.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I know I provided the amount of excavation.
You
volume
did for the
necessary,
wetlands, yeah. for the wetland
Vegetation
buffer.
removal,
Yes,
there's
you
a
did.
lot of information.
You did for the wetland buffer, but I think it was just for the steep slope, so just, if you can just respond.
That's fine. I'll provide a little additional information on that too. Just so you know, with regard to fire suppression, I know that was a comment from the fire department. We have contacted the town of Newcastle. We are potentially looking at as one possibility of trying to see whether or not we could extend a water main across Somerstown Road, completely within the town of Newcastle, in order to place a hydrant on the east side of Somerstown Road. The idea being that in the event of a fire, it could be hopefully never, but in the event of a fire, they wouldn't have to lay hoses across with Route 133. They could actually do it from this side. But as you know, we're also said that we would do other, there's other possibilities too, including a water storage tank at each of the lots. And I don't think it'll happen because of the cost, but the idea of extending a water main up Silverstown Road, because it's probably at least $200,000 to do that. And I just wanted to make that point, that we have had our initial discussion, at least with the town of Newcastle. Right, done lots of work, so they know me really too well. And I think that's really about it for it.
Did you want Craig to?
Yeah, I think let's hear from Craig and then we can.
And then I'll have comments.
Yes. let's go.
Right, so for those who don't know me, my name's Craig Stevens, I'm the town tree warden. I think I've been doing it for about 8 years, can't keep track, but anyhow, so, I walked through the property the other day, I just kind of got into this a week or two ago. So I walked through the property the other day and, you know, the forest, I've seen that forest before, because we were involved with a permit process over across the road from that. And I happen to know Mike Nowak, and I've reviewed some of his permit applications in different municipalities, and I know he's pretty thorough. So just without going through all his notes and everything else, I really kind of trust his judgment on evaluating the trees and things like that. The tree work, you know, looking at it, it looks like it's going to be kind of a logging project. So with that in mind, and seeing some of these beautiful trees and having in mind the idea of repurposing some of the wood, whoever's involved with getting a tree contractor in there, maybe having them guarantee that they're gonna make the most of the saw logs to have those trees made into lumber. The red oak, sugar maples, black locust makes great fence posts. So there are tree contractors out there that are involved with sawmills that would do that. And then you go in, you're gonna chip up the rest of this stuff, you know, it's gonna be gone. So that's that. Now, a couple other things that came to mind was after the clear cutting gets done, the clear cutting for the house lots, the trees that are exposed to the south, the canopies on the existing trees are very high. Okay, there's very low and there's minimal underbrush. There's minimal understory there. The deer have eaten it all up. So the canopies are quite high. So you clear the lot for the house. Now, those trees that are on the, let's say, where there's southern exposure, those trunks are exposed to the sunlight for the first time in their lives. Those trees will get subjected to sunscald and they will probably show a lot of decline 4 or 5 years from now. They'll get burned, like sunburn. So somewhere in the plan, the homeowner now has this house and they look out and they see all these trees, 5 years from now starting to die. They're gonna wanna take action and get rid of these trees that are dying, they're sunburned, the bark's peeling off and all that. And not only does the sun on the bark cause a problem, but the increase in soil temperature. The soil temperature now has been moderated because of the canopy in the forest. Remove that and that sun comes in and hits that ground and that temperature is going to jump up. I mean, we get these 100-degree days, that soil temperature is going to jump up. The roots are not very deep there because it's in a forest, beautiful, moist soils. So that also is going to affect the trees that are exposed to this new sunlight that they're getting. So that's something that maybe we have to think about going forward. And then, yeah.
Where is it you were thinking that that's going to occur?
Well, anywhere where there's a house, the lot's gonna be clear cut for the houses and then the septic systems and everything else.
There's gonna be clearing here.
Right, so the houses, the trees, and this is north going up this way, right? That's north.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
North is this way.
So the trees that are gonna be on the south side of the north side of the property, they're standing there remaining, and the sun's coming in from the south, is gonna hit.
So it's really trees like these areas here.
Yeah, like this side of the road here, this is north.
Yeah.
This is north there, right?
Yeah, north is this way.
Oh, okay, going that way. So the trees that are gonna be exposed to southern, a lot of sunlight, they're gonna get baked. And the dark bark trees are more susceptible than the lighter bark trees. So that means, the black birch, any Norway maples that are out there, so they get fried. And the thicker bark trees like black locust and stuff, they are thicker bark, they're a little bit more resistant to sun scald. It's the thin bark trees. I saw one or two American beech in there, protected species in New York State, but, with leaf beach disease going through, they're gonna die probably anyhow, but still something to think about. And then, while I was walking through, just because, I like nature, that, and you guys are taking preparation to protect that vernal pond that's along the edge of the road on Somerstown Road with silt fence. Yeah.
I'm not so sure it's a vernal pond.
Well,
That's
it's,
something else.
Okay,
There's
well-
water in it now.
yeah, there's water in it now, so vernal means, springtime, et cetera, so it's
Right, no,
springtime.
vernal is a very specific,
Okay, all right.
there's certain biota which occurs in a vernal pool.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's salamanders, spring peepers and other amphibians, but
Spring peepers would be anyway.
it would be great to really protect that with some silt fence.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, because you just look at that in any kind of contaminating water that might go down in there. And otherwise, so we talked about the logging and that, and, it's a little bit of a logging operation going on. I didn't look at Michael's, breakdown on percentage of, let's say, invasive species versus native species. I didn't really get a chance to look at that, but, there's a lot of Norway maples in there. There's a lot of black locusts in there. And, just to make a note, even though they're invasive species, they still make oxygen and they take up carbon dioxide and they make the environment cool. So they're maybe not as bad as everybody thinks they are. So, I don't
Can I
know,
ask you a question?
any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So first of all, did you have a chance to look at the areas where they are planting near where the driveway is? So that's what I was talking about. It's the same thing you said. These trees are now gonna be, well, it's a little different. They're gonna be under the canopy of existing trees. So did you get a chance to look?
No, I didn't look at it that thoroughly,
Oh,
you know,
because that would be worth looking at.
yeah.
But my other question to you regarding your comment right now, what would you suggest to protect the trees that are remaining? Like
It's
maybe
a tough,
understory
that's
trees?
tough. It's really tough
Well, how about
because
understory
it's
trees?
gonna be pretty much gonna be a straight line cut for where the house lot is, it's gonna be a straight line. And boy, it would be a tough fix. That canopy's so high on those existing trees that, the sun's gonna get right in there and bake that front row of trees that are exposed to the south.
So you don't think putting in like some understory trees would protect the bottom of them?
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to grow up pretty tall. Let's say it's 20, 30 feet, from the ground to where the canopy is way up high. There's a very high canopy in that woods. I mean, there have been times I've painted tree trunks with latex paint, white latex.
We're
paint.
not recommending
I know, we're not doing that, but there are things, put burlap in front to protect it and screen it. And I've been on some jobs right up here in Valeria where there was a spruce tree in front of this beautiful, beautiful white oak, big swamp white oak, huge. They took the spruce tree down, which shaded the trunk of that beautiful swamp oak. And now that tree is showing signs of sun scald and the bark is peeling off. It's like, it's like it hurts. So you can expect that that's gonna happen. And the homeowners are gonna look out and the other thing in the forest where you're not gonna cut, no cutting there. There are a lot of trees that are crisscrossed, they're dead, they're dying, they fall down. Those homeowners that are spending that much money on those homes, they look out, they wanna see a nice kind of manicured forest. So either they're gonna have to apply for permits, it depends who owns those lots, the individual, whatever, but in the future, they're gonna be putting in permits to take down that tree, it's out there in the woods. I come out my door, I see this ugly tree, it's in the woods, and so we can anticipate that too in the future.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back out and take a little bit thorough look and get an idea, a better handle on what's going on.
Because I'm particularly interested in planting, because hopefully we'll get to do a sidewalk. I think we're gonna talk about that later, but the ability to plant in an area that already has trees where you're not gonna be destroying roots, and its ability to grow under tree canopy. So that's like when you go next time, that's
Yeah.
what I'm interested in.
Well, under the tree, on the south side, the areas that face south, you can plant trees and they're gonna get all that sunlight.
Okay.
Try to plant on the north side that's being shaded by all that canopy, that's gonna be a tough go.
So maybe that's a situation by the driveway that they would be in a good place because they're on the south side, getting south light.
Hmm.
The one thing I will say is over here, for example, where these trees are being exposed because, from the south, but they're also on a slope that slopes away, it slopes towards the north.
Oh, okay,
So that is sort of beneficial to
Yeah.
some extent,
yeah,
rather than on the south side. I'm just pointing,
Yeah, no,
it's a minor thing, but I just want to
Yeah.
point it out. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But those are, no, I understand.
Yeah. Okay, I'm here.
And I just- you wanna- Thank you. Say, you want to walk it too with Michael Nowak.
Yeah, again, I've been on some sites down in Scarsdale with Michael, looking at situations, and, he's pretty good, he's accurate, and I trust him, but yeah, it'd be great to take a walk with him.
Okay. All right, well, we can see what we can arrange.
Sure.
So, are ready for my comment?
One other thing, when you made the comment, Michael did the, assessment with the diameter, you said caliper. It's DBH.
DBH.
Yeah, I just said, I said,
Yeah.
oh, no, not calipers,
Yeah.
DBH, so,
Yeah,
just
The
so.
landscape architect.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I have
done.
two comments. So just, on the short environmental assessment, just if you, on the number 14, thank you for all the other corrections you put in there, but number 14 needs to have wetland checked also.
Right,
But, so with the landscape maintenance plan, thank you for giving all that, but there needs to be, it's somewhere in here, it was talking about the deer, just as the browse, but it's, a lot of the trees are die, and actually, I had gone recently to some other project that was done, and the deer's rubbing on the trees also kills the trees, so
Right.
that's why it definitely needs some deer protection. on
right.
there.
There are deer protection areas which are shown on the
Okay.
plan.
Okay, just
Quite
wanted,
well
because
aware.
it was, didn't mention it in here, and that's, that would be
Are you
good.
saying VAF?
No.
The landscape maintenance
Oh,
plan,
okay,
yeah,
sure.
just, that'll kill the trees for sure.
Yeah.
That's why there's no understory, there's like a, major herd of deer in that area. Even though people do hunt there, they're not hunting enough, I guess, and then with the maintenance plan here under maintenance frequency,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just not, I don't know if somebody could look at this, but it's just a little confusing that you're gonna be putting in 3 inches of hardwood mulch, and you're seeding, so that's like contradicts each other, so I don't know that,
Yeah, that was those were some of the things that we were gonna have Craig take a
Okay,
look at,
great.
yeah, and
Okay,
I'll
great.
email him like all the details.
okay, because that didn't make any sense to me,
Well, I mean, if it's a seeded area, you put down a straw mulch, period.
Right.
Just to protect it and to keep moisture in it. But obviously around trees that are being planted or in shrub areas.
well, this is rain garden. So the
Rain
rain
garden
garden,
technically has 3 inches of shredded hardwood bark mulch on the bottom of it, and it's a variety of different plants that are in there. It's primarily shrubs that are there and some ferns which are being planted in there,
okay,
in the rain garden, so it is appropriate to put that down there. They're not grasses in the rain gardens.
all right, I'll defer to the, wetland. So I did have a comment, I don't know where I have it written down here, but it did say, yes, in the engineering report on, page 6. So it talks about the wetlands and, so maybe this is something for Sandy. It talks about the southernmost portion of the wetland is impacted by the neighboring property to the south. The impacts include the placement of woody debris and brush in the wetland and wetland buffer, and that impedes the natural flow of water from the wetland. That sounds like a violation to me. So, and I guess that's 90 Summerstown Road property.
There was a lot of debris.
Yeah, so that's 90,
Yeah.
that's 90 Summerstown Road. right?
Obviously, it's not from this property.
Right.
It looks like it's from the property itself.
Yeah, well, they have many issues. That property has many issues right now. So I think that should be looked into. This, condemning the wetland because someone else has damaged it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I think that, John should look into that.
I don't think it was condemning the wetland, but I think it
Well, it
was,
says it has no, it's low functioning, it's this, it's that. So that's really a matter that the homeowner, not the current people, but the previous people neglected to take care of their property. I mean, the wetland doesn't just do that on its own.
Right, I think too, it was really noted by us that there's virtually zero understory in that.
That's the deer, right?
I know it's a deer, but, you know, there just isn't.
Well, I like the idea of you putting those trees in there. I do,
Yeah, it's really shrubs, native shrubs and a lot of herbaceous material here.
right.
In the one area, because this right now is ponded, there are a couple, you could do it here, but there was just too much debris there right now.
Well, I
And we don't
agree,
wanna-
I agree.
We weren't quite sure. You know, we're not requesting right now to remove debris that someone else dumped on our property.
Oh, I wouldn't say that either.
I wouldn't do that at
No,
all.
I'm
So
not
that's-
talking about
so
them.
We're just leaving that there right now,
Right.
period, and we'll deal with that another time.
Well, I think the town building inspector should go and
Right.
see what they've been dumping. That's for sure. Because that's definitely not, compliant. The other thing I wanted to note is that there's, in front of the ZBA next Monday is 90 Somerstown Road property is going because they have a lot of activity behind these properties and what they're applying for is basically to put up a corral and a barn and they have chickens and they have all that stuff. And I'm a little concerned. I just want someone to check and make sure that the wells of these new houses are not located where these people are putting all this livestock. So, because it's up, I believe that's uphill from there. So just that needs to be checked out. So I don't know who needs to check that out. But somebody needs to check that out.
So,
Maybe they don't get permission, which would be really great if the ZBA doesn't give them permission, but if they do.
so my understanding is that some of the animals are currently there.
Yeah.
But they are now coming to the zoning board for
Right.
approval for
Yeah.
that. And I think given the scope of the work, there is going to be a lot of information the zoning board is still going to need.
Okay,
So it's not anticipated that the board would take any action at their
Okay.
meeting on Monday. So
Okay.
there would be time to kind of flesh that out.
okay,
But that should really be incumbent upon the owners of 90 Somerstown to
Right.
demonstrate in their special permit application that they are not going to be impacting 94
Okay.
Somerstown.
well, that would be
Um,
great, right,
But, you know, obviously, if the two are happening around the same time, they should be aware of each other
Right.
and use that information to plan accordingly.
yeah,
So
because usually
completely
what
agree.
happens often is that, you know, that if there's somebody proposing something and they're saying, well, it's just forest. Which it is right now,
Correct.
but it's gonna be residential soon, so
Right.
it's, or, you know.
So would the county health department be involved in 90 as well as it, because they haven't given.
There's nothing that they're doing that requires health department approval, then they wouldn't see it. But this application has to meet all the setbacks for the wells.
Right, that's,
So-
but I'm just.
So the county will be
wondering
reviewing that.
Right now, the only application that 90 Somerstown is before the zoning board for is for the animals, which requires a special permit.
Right.
But I think that we need to have some follow-up discussions with the building inspector, and Valerie and Dan, to make sure that there are no additional approvals that may be needed because there are structures being proposed and whether or not that application should be coming before this board as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
But that hasn't been right now, it is only before the zoning board. That is the only approval that has been determined to be needed as of date.
so if all parties know what's going on. that'd be
Exactly.
great.
I don't disagree with you
Right,
on that.
Right,
And
so should we send something as a planning board to ZBA or?
Christy and I talked about this ahead of time, and we're gonna check to see if for some reason this needs site plan approval. If it
Okay.
doesn't need site plan approval, then we can have a conversation next month about any sort of comments you're
Okay.
gonna send over to the ZBA.
I just had a friend, who sold her house and her well failed, and, the first thing someone asked, is there any animals nearby? And the house up the hill from her has had chickens for years. And then, the well failed, and we're sure it's the well, so. Whatever, it's just something. to
Is
consider.
the client aware that 90?
We were just sort of,
Okay.
really like our construction liaison,
Okay,
was here. And I was asking whether or not they knew about this application. They didn't say anything to me that they had received a notification about this meeting. Is it available online?
Yeah, they should go. And
Yeah.
they've also been, they have a burn, they had burn pits, they were burning construction material up there, they were doing quite a lot of things that would bring, a nice new home. It's definitely not, I think that's stopped, I'm pretty sure, but, I've heard,
I'm well aware of the various
but
things.
it's Monday, it is on the CBA.
It's Monday at 7:30. If you go on, if you Google Town of Austin zoning board pending application,
Okay,
you can find everything on there. They should have had to notice the owner of 94, but given its current condition, I don't know where that mailing actually landed.
all right.
It did.
Yeah.
They, it's. They got lost in the shop.
Okay.
The zoning board. Jennifer Smith.
So,
I just had one other comment. So there has to be, at some point, a tree replacements, like we have to. The amount of trees that you're planting, that how that meets our requirement for the replacement, because I didn't see that here. And there was just a note, that I didn't write down, but I thought, Valerie or Christie. So they have really great planting species on your planting plan. I mean, it's a really nice planting, a list, an assortment, a wide variety. Just what I've experienced is that when they go to buy the plants, because I know developers go and they want to buy everything at once, and not always is everything available at once, because it's just a matter of when
Right.
it's best available. So I was wondering in the language if we could give them a little leeway, like, so maybe it's like within 1 calendar year, like say the swamp oak, which is less available than others, but a really fantastic tree. So that they have a window of time, rather than finding replacements and then having less diverse species.
As long as the board is comfortable with that, I see no reason.
I mean,
why.
it should have a time limit,
Yeah.
but, like, so if it's not available in the fall and it's available in the spring, they could plant it then, something like that.
It doesn't change anything, it's just.
no.
Right, it just
So,
another,
Just
Wait a
gives
yeah,
them,
The only thing it might change is like the landscape maintenance, process, right? That
Right.
usually we put,
like a.
an
farm.
agreement in place of 5 year to make
Right.
sure that the landscaping thrives and that, if it doesn't, then it'll be replaced.
Right,
So that may cause us to have to stagger the timing a little bit.
all right, well, if maybe there's some way we could work that
Yeah,
out,
we can work that out in the resolution or something.
rather than just getting whatever they have, and then you'll have like,
Mhm.
less variety of species. So that's, and then just the, I am the liaison to the AC, so I did give them a heads up that I thought this would probably be coming to them soon, so, they did request a site walk.
Sure.
And then the information of the filling and grading would be, informative to them, so.
on the issue of sidewalk, I think we should have a sidewalk too, and I'd like to arrange it so that if possible, we can all go at the same time and notice it. Because I think that having, giving, taking us is a good.
The only thing with noticing is, members of the public have the
Show up,
opportunity to
that's
show up if they want to. Yeah. It wouldn't be a public hearing, it would be like a meeting tonight.
Right.
Do you want to set a date for that?
Yeah, I'll just do it.
Yeah,
Would you want to do this outside? I mean, I have Sandy, I mean, like,
I want to do it, after May 5th and before May 29th, when I have my surgery, my second surgery.
Well, the next meeting is May 21st,
Right.
so
So is it possible to get them in before May 21st?
So what
I'm
days,
okay.
what days are good?
I'm usually the Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
Thursdays
About you?
Thursdays are generally.
It's more of a, what time are you guys thinking?
What time is good?
During the workday?
Right, so what's the end of your
like
work day?
6, 7, something like that.
Oh, that wouldn't be
I could-
enough time.
I could even get there at 5:30. I could leave early, get there at 5.
I think 5 would be.
We have enough
time.
light.
Yeah, there's enough light.
Thursday, May 8th
That sounds
at
good.
5:30.
Yes, I'm gonna have to get back to you. It sounds like it's okay.
Would that work for the applicant?
I think so.
Yeah, I'll check.
We'll check with-
At 5.
So we're talking 5/8 at 5 o'clock?
May 8th at 5.
All right,
Sounds good.
There's also the 1st and the 15th. I think that the intention would be to get it in for the next meeting on the 21st.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I'm not available on the 15th.
Well, I'm not available on the 1st, so.
Okay.
So my arbitrary check would be.
If we keep the time the same, I can pretty much make it.
Okay. Oh, actually, the 15th, I probably could be back by 5, but it would be like really cutting it close. I'm on way over in New Jersey, that thing, so.
We can make it.
Yeah.
You're gonna drive through rush hour from Jersey and make it on time.
I'm helping somebody with something, so I'd have to leave a little early.
Like 2 o'clock.
We'll see. All right, but the 8th might be
Okay, very good. Let's plan on the 8th for now.
And I just asked, now this one is, we go for EAC. When is it, I haven't checked to see the calendars, it's just.
So the problem with the EAC is that they just had their meeting. I don't know why they have it, when they have a planning board liaison, why they have the meeting before the planning board meeting, so.
I think their next one would be the 6th though, isn't it? Or,
6th of May.
You know,
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's either the 1st or 2nd Tuesday. I
Yeah.
can't remember.
but as far as referring to them,
Is that,
Yeah.
is that healthier? For me?
the EAC, they do it by Zoom, actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
They're an advisory board, so.
Yeah.
that's all right, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's all right.
So, Sandy can get you
Yeah, that's
the
fine.
information.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you want to invite the EAC to your site visit, or would they do their own separate site visit? Because Don, I think that's how this
You
conversation
can,
started.
I'd be happy to have them invited to ours if they can make it. If not, they can have their own.
And then we're gonna refer to them tonight.
Yeah.
So that my
Yeah.
point about their meeting is that they're not meeting for another few
Yeah.
weeks, so, but I did try to get them.
Then we can send them all the information and they can
Mhm.
start reviewing them.
Um,
And then, the last thing is whether this board wants to call for a public hearing for next month. This application.
Probably should start the process at this point. I think we have enough
Probably good to
information.
hear what the public has to say. if
Yeah.
there's any issues.
Okay.
Did we have,
And we'll have had the site visit by then, so
Mhm.
we'll be in a better position.
Better to
to-
hear it early. So we
Yeah.
can
yeah, no, I just have,
Have we approved the subdivision plan?
No.
you don't do that talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're.
Here, public hearings.
What was your question?
Who does the notification for the public hearing?
I can help you with that.
Okay, that's.
Usually the applicant, but I'll
I'm just-
gather all the information for
Okay,
you.
I've been through this rodeo before, that's what I'm asking.
So just to note, I still do have some issues with the 3 lot, but I want to wait and do a site visit at this point and see the actual, boots on the ground situation before I make any more comments about that.
What's the smallest square footage of the three?
I mean, lot wise,
Yeah.
maybe area.
Yeah.
Which I think would be lot number 3 is a smaller one, 1.5 acres.
Yeah, that's really not-
Mhm.
I mean, these are larger, but they all have frontage on Somerstown Road.
But they're all oversized, so.
Basically 2
Yeah,
acres
so-
and almost 3 acres.
Okay. All right, so, we need a motion to set the public hearing for the meeting.
May 21st.
Go ahead, have a motion,
I'll make that motion.
go ahead, have a second. So, thank you, and, Donna, how do you vote?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Okay, so we have the public hearing set for that. Do we need a motion to refer to the EAC or?
No.
Okay, so can I,
I'll file a motion.
Second.
second, very good. Donna, how do you vote?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Bill?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. And so we're done.
Motion, oh, you got it.
Oh,
Yeah, the minutes.
The minutes.
The minutes, yes.
Are we ready to adjourn?
No, I mean, we're finished with the
Yes.
applicant. Yes, okay.
Oh, you never know.
We're finished.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Mhm. Okay. So, can I have a motion to,
To adopt.
approve, yes.
I'll file a motion to adopt the February 19, 2025 meeting minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And, Donna, how do you
so
vote?
I just read it through now, because most of it is copied from my letter, so I don't have to read that.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I vote yes as well. Okay. We have a few other business things here that we want to discuss. So how about the new restaurant at 549? Is that the place where it used to be like Friars or something?
Supposed to be the exercise place.
Oh,
No.
the exercise
Across
place.
from Carol's.
Got it. Okay, so what's going on?
So I requested that we talk about this because they are pitching it as a bar and a lounge. If this is what they are promoting this as, and I don't recall that I thought we were approving a restaurant, so I wanted to know, like, what that is, and has John been out there and?
Yes, he's out there all the time. I did mention that to him, and he did say that there is an extremely large kitchen in there.
Uh-huh,
So, and they're not quite done, so we don't know, you know.
I personally, since I live right behind them, but even if I lived down the street from them, I wasn't approving, I just feel like really hoodwinked, because I was not approving a bar and a lounge.
Right.
I thought they were telling us about like a lounge area on the front,
Yeah.
front side.
Elevators, right?
Yeah.
They don't, they haven't applied for anything like a cabaret license or anything like
No.
that.
No,
So.
Right.
It's all interior. Can't imagine it would be,
so if this is ours operation, restaurant operation, so by 9 PM, 10 is
I'm
usually when
closer to
they
you.
cut off.
Yeah.
I'm closer to you. Absolutely.
On the other side. They're closer to the left.
Yeah, you have to go past my house to get there.
So I think we might have to wait till they actually are in
Me
operation.
too.
And then at
Yeah.
that point, it's like, if they're in operation and they're clearly violating what was approved.
Well, that's my question. They are violating, right? Because we
They haven't even
Well,
opened.
they don't have a CO
Yeah.
yet.
Right.
So you
No, but I mean, if they were to do that, that is not what we approved, correct?
Well, if they're serving food, then they
Yeah,
have
I don't think
tables.
anything we
Right.
said precludes them from having. a
I think if
liquor
it's just
license.
straight, yeah, if it's just straight bar, right, and like that's it, then that's different, but I think as long as they're having, I mean,
even Flame has a nice bar.
right.
Yeah, but that's I mean, if they
If they
promote
say
themselves as a
eating and
restaurant.
drinking, I mean, that's. The application was like eating and drinking.
I mean, primarily this place is a restaurant, correct? The bar is secondary.
The signs they're putting out is bar and lounge. So, anyway, all right, we'll stay tuned. That was my, I don't know how to do these reviews. And you're approving something, you don't even know what you're approving. It's like, it's disturbing to me. It's, it's all families
Well, I
behind
think-
there.
No, I understand, but I think they could have a bar there, but if they're just only bar,
Right.
right, then that's something different, but I
Their,
think.
their,
for
prim- their primary function though is restaurant.
Restaurant,
The bar is to.
Right.
Support the food.
Yeah, but Flames is a restaurant. They
Yes,
say they're
that should be exactly the
They're
same.
saying bar and lounge, they're not saying restaurant. So this is, so we'll see.
yeah, let's just see when they
Yeah,
open, yeah.
They're still working on
It's a valid point.
plumbing and stuff, so they're, they're not quite done.
Yeah, okay. Armstrong, what's going on with that?
Sandy, do you have any update on
I do not, John will go there and take a look at it, but I'm not sure.
that? All right.
They still aren't doing.
I guess they
anything,
haven't done
basically what it
anything,
is.
yeah.
Do they not have to do anything?
They do, they have a site plan and we've been on top of them. And then they ended up, they came back for like renewal of that site plan.
Right.
They need to actually, yeah, that's something that,
Do it.
a property that we've been trying to deal with. And I think John's, did he issue a violation? Remember?
I think he did last year, and
Right,
that's
he
what
did.
prompted the renewal of the site plan, but then.
And they still haven't done anything.
Yeah. We can send it there again.
This isn't on here as other business, but I have a quick question about, the affordable units at,
North Knolls?
Forest Knolls,
Yeah, we can check on those.
yeah, which is please.
Yes.
I think they had one, a couple of years ago, but yeah, we just haven't really had much dialogue with them about it.
What phase is that project anyway?
It's occupied.
Yeah.
They've.
Oh,
okay, Yeah.
About River.
River Knoll,
I think that was probably approved before you were. even
Yeah,
on the
it
planning
was.
board, yeah.
I meant River Knoll.
we
Oh,
expect to
yeah.
we expect something from them in June, but who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But then we're probably gonna need some time to go through everything before they get on an agenda. So it's really incumbent upon them when they make their submission.
Right, oh, he wanted. You know, I had a short discussion about, their, medium priced units.
That's all gonna go up now.
Well, yes, but in the meantime. He wanted, whatever, we'll see what happens when he really files. The middle school is,
That was a letter that was
Yeah.
submitted.
right,
And I think the school district changed their minds and how many, what they were gonna clear cut, so.
You guys know about this with the dorm? Man, Linville?
But
we were
there.
Jim knows.
Talking about last
meeting.
So the school district has, it seemed like,
So Carolyn wrote a letter.
and it seemed like the school district changed their position. They did send a letter to the supervisor stating that, you know, they were gonna reduce the amount of trees that they were taking down, so.
But did they share a plan?
No.
I mean.
No, they still.
They haven't shared
They
one,
at least
but-
agreed to
The,
reduce.
the challenge is, they still have to go out for the bond vote. So my sense is that they don't want to spend the money until they know they have the funding. Because if it doesn't press the referendum, then there's no project.
So they just made out a blanket statement, we're gonna mow down.
Yeah.
Certain number.
Yeah, so it seems like they changed, so it was 21 acres, I think, altogether. They were gonna cut down 21 acres of trees,
I thought it was the,
letting the arborist know that. And then,
I thought it was.
but now there's changing the plan, like instead of putting that ball field at the top of the hill, they're gonna put it over the storm.
They're salvaging 8 acres, I think.
Yeah, 8.
Yeah, but I thought
it
it was only
13.
15
Yeah.
Yeah,
acres.
it was 15 and they
15.
dropped it down. to-
Yeah. They're saving 8.
They're saving 8 out of the
Yeah.
15.
Oh, it was 15 altogether?
Yeah.
I thought it was more than that. Okay,
it was
so
15.
yeah, so that's good.
And I offered our assistance on the planting plants. and
Yeah,
see what happens.
Definitely concerned about that, yeah.
They don't have to come to us, but maybe they'll ask for some
Wow.
advice. And that's about the best we can do.
And in the letter, it provided them with the resources that the planning board puts on their website to be available to the public, so.
So it does, it definitely is bad that they don't want to partake in like a community. I mean, I know they don't have to, but it's kind of ridiculous and,
And,
And there is an opportunity to do a good planting plan, you know, That'll- might be all.
They're not that far along.
They still need a few things from the town. They need the town to change the speed limit, for the school zone.
Right,
And the town's going to need a bond
right.
for the work that's being done for the driveway on town property. So there's still opportunity for further discussion.
Anything else, anybody? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Donna? how do you
Yes.
vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, as well.
I would.
See you. Maybe. 20.